Some poisons can kill people in the thousands with that amount.
Capcom showed off some wonderfully haunting first footage of A.K.I, Street Fighter VI's next brand new DLC character at EVO this year. The toxic combatant moves like a snake and dons a dress that's made of thousands of black scales, and uses poison not unlike the similarly acronymically named and poison-wielding F.A.N.G from Street Fighter V. We've almost no information on A.K.I yet, though Capcom very well may have given us the crucial beginnings of her dark backstory a full 5 years ago in 2018. One of their side reader stories detailing some post-Street Fighter V events surrounding F.A.N.G really sounds like it offers the inciting incident that turned A.K.I onto the initial path that led her into becoming the apparent monster she is in Street Fighter VI. The short story is called Toxicity and is told in 3 parts, the first of which simply sets a scene with F.A.N.G as an assassin walking darkened Chinese streets sometime after the fall of Shadaloo and thus after the events of Street Fighter V. He encounters a young prostitute who beckons him to join her in a rundown building nearby, which he does not due to a sense of sexual excitement, which the poison that courses through his system has all but eliminated the potential for, but because he sees in her eyes a familiar strength he recognizes from the very few of his peers that were able to survive the harsh, poison-based training and conditioning that would ultimately turn them into poison-wielding assassins. I'd like to read a few excerpts from the story that really point to the development of this character that I'm more convinced than not winds up becoming A.K.I. "Hey mister." Upon hearing the voice, F.A.N.G stopped. A young woman stood in a small, dark corner of one of the city streets. Similar to an assassin, she was a worker in one of the other oldest trades in human history. It was a scene familiar throughout the world. Though it was illegal, it was not rare to see such women using the streets for their trade. "You got some cash? Would you like a massage?" The woman glanced up at F.A.N.G. She looked poor, her dress clinging onto her wiry frame. She smiled, an insecure and unpracticed smile spread across her face devoid of makeup. She gave off the impression of an amateur, a woman who felt out of place standing on the streets. F.A.N.G glared back at her, but ultimately decided to accept her offer. He wasn't drunk, and another side effect of the poison was that he no longer felt that sort of animalistic desire. However, there was something about this woman that intrigued him. Those pure, black eyes that stared directly at him. It reminded him of eyes he'd seen before, someone he'd since long forgotten. He follows her into a seedy nearby building and into an area sectioned off by dirty white sheets with some blankets on the foul-smelling floor. F.A.N.G stared at her with cold eyes. She returned his gaze, and in her eyes F.A.N.G could see the truth behind her saccharine voice. Behind her youthful, beautiful looks there was also strength. A strength that was the same as his poison. Her eyes were the same as his were, as theirs were. Then he remembered the brothers he'd once forgotten. F.A.N.G notices a third person in the room. The other person is likely the girl's brother and is holding a phone and recording the illegal interaction. The young man reveals his and the girl's plan to blackmail F.A.N.G, not realizing his potential to quickly kill them both, nor the fact that his identity had long been erased from any and all databases across the globe. Instead of instantly killing them, however, F.A.N.G decides to offer them a choice and throws 2 items down on the ground in front of them. The first is a stack of money that the pair could easily live off of for more than a year. The other is a gorgeously crafted dagger with a snake handle. Unbeknownst to the pair, the money is covered in slow-acting poison that will kill anyone who touches it over time. The dagger is a sacred treasure from the assassin organization that F.A.N.G learned from, and is actually worth even more than the stack of money as a piece of art alone, though it holds even greater value still. Should they reach for the dagger and touch it, F.A.N.G plans to cut off their hands but let them live and thus grow the legacy of the mysterious snake dagger, as they would inevitably go on to tell the tale of how they were mutilated. The young girl is mesmerized by the dagger and even reaches toward it, but notices some markings that she cannot read etched into the blade. Instead of touching it, she asks F.A.N.G to tell her what the engravings on the blade mean. Tears shone in the woman's eyes. F.A.N.G casually waved his hand, and in an instant, the tip of the blade was pressed against the woman's pale chest. "Are you serious?" The woman nods. Deep within her black eyes, F.A.N.G could see a strength like poison. No, F.A.N.G had been mistaken. He thought her to have the same eyes as his brothers, but that was wrong. The woman had met his gaze and swallowed it up in a bottomless pool of poison. It was a strength he'd never seen before, not within himself or his brothers. Impressed, F.A.N.G decides to allow her to keep both her life and her limbs. Her choice is neither the money nor the blade, but instead the most valuable option of all: education. The markings she inquires about are actually the secrets for the strongest poison techniques passed down through the generations of the organization. He decides to take her under his wing and gives her a new name and new identity: Phantom. While there isn't a ton to go off of, we will note that the snake dagger from the story and the red bag from A.K.I.'s teaser share a lot of similarities. Note the red drawstrings that look a lot like the red rope that hangs around the dagger's loop. What's more, the toxicity story spends extra time focusing on the significance of the young girl's eyes, which are referred to some 10 times. While they're described as pure black and dark in the story, there's also a sense of misdirection about them as F.A.N.G realizes towards the end that they aren't quite the same familiar ones he initially thought they were. During A.K.I.'s trailer, her eyes change color. They appear to be closer to a bright purple at first, but as the scene goes on, they change into a dark purple and eventually to a solid black. Also, the official Street Fighter Twitter told us to feed your obsession with her by keeping your eyes peeled for more details to come in their tweet about the character. We'll also note that perhaps this points to a particular evolving ability to poison foes with different kinds of effects, hence all the different bags we see again in A.K.I.'s trailer. Instead of a mere life drain as we saw with F.A.N.G, maybe A.K.I. will be able to do this as well as sap drive gauge, super meter, and maybe more. Of course, the girl in the Street Fighter V story is clearly named Phantom and not A.K.I., though the very beginning of that same story points out that F.A.N.G is a man of many names. In the past, this man has been called many different names: Wan Lei, Fan Xiaofei, Michael F.A.N.G, Fu Manchu, but none of them were his real name. A.K.I.'s pale white skin may also point to the fact that she was to throw away her name and live as a ghost. While it doesn't seem that there are any obvious connections between the names Phantom and A.K.I., the latter does mean born in the autumn or bright. It just so happens that A.K.I.'s Street Fighter VI release window is indeed in the autumn, and we'll surely find out more about this increasingly intriguing character soon. What do you think of A.K.I. thus far? Please share your excitement and speculations in the comments below, and if you were entertained or educated by this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. We have a whole playlist of more in-depth character story breakdowns for you to explore, such as the sad history of Jury and the evil roots of M. Bison. I've been John Velociraptor Guerrero for EventHubs.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you this fall.